Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Kiri, and I work at the Career Service. We've got an excellent panel of speakers here today from international alumni who've managed to get jobs and remain in the UK after graduation, joining us today to give you their advice and opinions and hopefully help you get started with your career. Joining me also today is my colleague Miriam from the Alumni Office. Miriam, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words about what you do?
Hi, yes, I'm Miriam, and I'm from the Division of Development and Alumni Relations, and I work with the Faculty of Science and Engineering alongside two other colleagues who work for humanities and biology, medicine and health, and we engage alumni in activity like this to give careers advice and guidance to students like you. And could I ask the panelists to introduce themselves? So my view is that I can see Naziru first, then Niran, then Aishwarya. So Naziru, could you go first?
Okay. Hello, everybody. Nasir Mohammed. I finished from the University of Manchester in 2011 with a master's in advanced chemical engineering. I'm from Nigeria, where I did my undergraduate in the Bachelor's of Chemical Engineering. I think I had a fun time at the University of Manchester, which also helped me to advance my career. Previously, I was a project engineer at Cumberland Electrochemical Limited. I am now project manager at Lloyd Register for low carbon projects. That's basically nuclear projects, business assurance, to be brief. And yeah, that's my story.
Thank you, Naziru. Nuran, could you introduce yourself?
Yep. Hi, everyone. My name is Nuran Suresh. I joined the university in 2012 for a foundation degree before moving on to doing my master's in aerospace engineering. So I graduated in 2017 with a master's. I then joined Rolls-Royce in their civil aerospace department. I'd previously done a summer internship with them as well. So I joined them on the graduate scheme in 2017. The graduate scheme is 18 months long, so I came off the scheme early last year and moved on to my permanent role, which is currently a life cycle engineer in the Trent 1000 and Trent 7000 team. So in terms of what I do currently, a life cycle engineer is what you'd call a service engineer, so supporting our products in service. And the Trent 1000 powers the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, and the 7000 powers the A330neo. So my role is essentially supporting those products in service and ensuring safe and reliable operation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nuran. Aishwarya, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Aishwarya Shore, and I graduated from Manchester 2 years ago. Currently, I work as a change analyst at Arm, and that's a technology company based in Cambridge. So I joined as a graduate soon after graduation, and since I've been exploring different departments within the company, and thankfully Arm is a company that really encourages that. So right now I'm on a secondment, so which is where you move to a different department internally for a few months. So I'm doing that for 6 months now, and I'm focusing on change management, which I find pretty interesting. I remember how hard it was for me to apply, lots of jobs and get lots of rejections. And I can't imagine that it's any easier now with, the coronavirus and everything. So I'm here to answer any questions that you have and share my experience as well. Ask away.
Thank you very much, guys, for joining us today and giving up your time to speak to our students.
We do have another speaker who's just joined the session. I think she's only trying to figure out how to connect her audio and video on. So just give us a few seconds while the other speaker is trying to connect. But in the meantime, I just wanted to tell the students that we will be taking your questions throughout the session. So just make sure you submit them, and then if you've got a question for a specific person in the panel, let us know. Or if you've got any other questions, we've got colleagues from the Career Service and the Division of Alumni and Development behind the scenes answering your questions. So make sure you submit them. Just to do a test and just to make sure that everyone is able to submit questions, it would be really useful for us to submit a question telling us where in the world you are today. So if you're somewhere in India, if you're still in Manchester, if you're in China, if you're in North America, put it in the questions section and send it through to us, just to get a sense of where our students joining us here today. In the meantime, Miriam and I have some burning questions to ask the panel. So I'd like to start with the very first one and address the elephant in the room. We're all going through a pandemic right now, and no one could really have prepared for what is happening or have predicted that COVID-19 is going to come about and change the way we work. I just wanted to ask the speakers whether during their time in Manchester or during their professional career so far, they've built up any skills like resilience or self-motivation that has helped them adapt to this difficult period. And also I wanted to ask them whether they've picked up any new hobbies, or what are they doing now in their free time to help with their professional development. So will anyone like to go first?
Oh yeah, I'll go first. So yes, the COVID-19, unfortunately, it's something that's taken us all by surprise, even though there are a few Netflix series on pandemics and their spread since 2016. So I think for a few of us, yes, we knew something like that was coming down the line, but just decided to keep our head in the sand like an ostrich. Well, how it is for me really is, as a project manager, when planning projects, you tend to do a risk analysis, so you see exactly what problems you could face. For us, it was classed as a force majeure, so it's not something that you plan for specifically, but you have measures in place to implement in case something like that goes wrong. For us, fortunately, at Lloyd Register, we've been trialing remote working for a couple of years now. Actually, most of us work part-time at the office, and twice a week we are encouraged to work from home for sustainability reasons. So it's something that we're able to take on and roll with immediately. Regarding hobbies that we've picked up this time, I think for me, I enjoy trying out new languages. I've been trying out a bit of Japanese and brushing up on my Arabic. I also spend time at weekends doing quizzes with my friends on Zoom.
Perfect. I've seen now that Awasha has managed to join the line. Hi, Awasha. How are you today?
Hi, fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for joining us. I just wanted to check whether you'd like to do a really quick introduction about who you are, where you work right now, when you went to Manchester, and then what we've asked the panel is how they're adjusting to this new reality of working from home, and if you've got any recommendations for the students about how to stay motivated and what skills they can build on while they're not in Manchester and studying away from campus.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got a friend.
I think we've just lost Awasha here for a second. Miriam, do you've got another question while we try to get Awasha back on the line?
Okay, yes, sure. So let's pretend this hasn't happened and hopefully life will go back to normal. What was the application process like for the companies that you work for? And hopefully when life goes back to normal, what might the students expect? Was it harder as a non-UK citizen?
Yeah, so I don't mind taking that. So, yeah, I think a lot of people do expect it to be quite hard for international students, and unfortunately it is. It's purely because you essentially have to jump through a lot more hoops, and there is a financial and a legal obligation that the companies who are sponsoring you take on. But having said that, at the end of the day, they want the best skill in their company. So there are a lot of companies who do sponsor international students. So you do have a lot of opportunities. In terms of the application process, you are treated the same in terms of just the application. So for me, for example, I had to go through 3 different stages. It starts off with an online application, just like most jobs do now. You then move on to your online psychometric test, which, I think for any, university student is quite a challenge because it's very black and white when it comes to that stage. You're either in or you're out. So one key piece of advice I give to students at events like this is to keep practicing those psychometric tests. That's what companies use to shortlist applicants before finally moving on to your face-to-face interviews. A lot of them are now online, but you step through the same process that any other EU or UK national steps through. So it's important to familiarize yourself with that process as well.
I think Aishwarya has something to add as well.
Sure. And to add to what Niran said, I think I had similar stages, but I think there was also a video interview that I had to do, which was like a recorded video interview. And I remember finding that really strange, having to sit and talk to yourself in a room. And I think that things like that you can definitely practice really helps. And also I remember doing some gamified tests, which is pretty hard to understand what the point of it is sometimes. What are they really testing? And things like that. I guess you just have to do your best.
It does take practice, and just to point out to the students that we do have a wide variety of resources available on the Career Service website, and always do get in touch with us if you need any additional support or if you need any advice before you make an application. If you'd like a member of the Career Service to look over your CV or your cover letter, or even if you're still unsure about what you want to do, get in touch with us and set an appointment with a careers consultant to have a conversation with them and help you guide you about what the appropriate or like what options you might enjoy in terms of careers. We do have a really good question from the audience. Someone is asking, what was the #1 thing that you did while you were studying that you think helped you land your job quickly?
So I can go right. So one thing for me personally, which I was quite surprised by, was my part-time job. So I had a part-time job in a sports shop for 4 years, right through my aerospace degree. And to be honest, for me, it was just that extra bit of cash that helped, and that's the only reason I really did it. But when it came to the interview, one key piece of feedback that I got was the fact that I had taken that initiative and found a part-time job and stuck with it throughout my degree. Completely irrelevant to my field, yet that's something that stood out and showed them, that I was willing to balance that university life and my work life from an early stage. So if you do get a chance, then definitely do look for opportunities like that, even if it's waiting on tables or, working in a Starbucks. I think it definitely helps.
Naziru, were you going to say something?
Yeah. So I think my experience is similar to Niran's as well. I took up a part-time job at Tesco during the Christmas overtime period. So I helped out in the shop. It helped me to get understanding of what exactly I was lacking. And it was immediately apparent that my face-to-face communication skills was really bad. What helped was Tesco forced me to become a customer service advisor, heading the complaints desk. So yeah, that just put me in the hot end immediately. That helped out a lot because when I did make it through the preliminary stages, which is the online psychometric test, and it got to a face-to-face or a video interview session, it was the way I spoke, the way my voice was automated. I was able to channel my excitement for the opportunities, which gave me that extra advantage out here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd like to add, besides part-time work, I think something that really helps when you're at university is doing internships. So a lot of my friends, did internships and then they got graduate offers after that. And I think it works really well because not only do your employer, future employers get to see what you're like and what your potential is, but also you get to test and see if that place and that company is the right place for you. So I definitely encourage using your breaks in university, summer, winter, all of that, to get some experience.
Perfect. I work very closely with employers, and I can definitely confirm that employers do love to hear from students who didn't just spend their time at university studying, but they want to see all the extracurricular activities that you've done, from volunteering to part-time jobs, even if it's like jobs, working at the supermarket or working in a call center. Those are all very valid jobs that add real skill to you, and they show that you're able to balance both your studying with other things as well. And Miriam, did you have any more questions from the audience?
Yeah, there's one specifically directed at Naziru, which says, what technical and soft skills would you think I would need to be successful in the chemical/process industry, and those that I can develop during this COVID-19 situation?
Okay, so that's a very good question. At the moment, what I'll always recommend for process engineers and chemical engineering students specifically is, first and foremost, join the iChemie. It will give you an opportunity to network with other process specialists within the industry. It gives you an insider input and information regarding what's going on within the industry and how you can align your studies to make sure you're better placed when it's time for interviews. Regarding skills that you would need as a process engineer, I think it's just going back to basics. So for me, when I started out at Cumberland Electrochemical, what I went in with was my skills in utility system design and sustainable energy development. I found out that the company I was working for didn't have the software that I was trained with at Manchester. So it was just back to the basics, working with Excel spreadsheets and being able to convert P&ID problems like mass and energy balances to simple Excel spreadsheets to work with. Just basic stuff like that will really help you along. Going back to training, it also helps that if you are with the iChemie, you get recommendations for what process training that you could go for, like hazard member training, hazard lead training, valve sizing, pump sizing, just the little things that will just give you that extra advantage when it's time to actually start applying for jobs. I would also like to add that before carrying out job applications, you need to take it really seriously and just assume that every job you're going for is the only job available for you to go for. That way you don't make silly mistakes like putting in typos in your CV or missing that little space, because at the earlier stages, it's really competitive. If there are about 300 to 500 candidates applying for one particular job, all it takes is just that little mistake to just throw you out of the contention. I think, yeah, so basically join the iChemie, build your network. I think another important point is having a LinkedIn profile, putting yourself out there.
Which links me quite nicely to the next question, which is, where did you search for your jobs? Did you go through LinkedIn? Did you go through the career service? Did you go through your individual networks? Did you use different search engines? Will anyone like to expand on that?
Yeah, sure, I can take that one. I think definitely LinkedIn was a huge resource in searching for jobs. There were also other websites like Target and Indeed.com. I guess those are specifically for job vacancies. I remember attending careers fairs as well at university. And also, I think I directly went to the website of the companies that I was interested in and saw what their listings are. So I think there's a lot out there online.
Would anyone else like to add anything?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I agree with Aishwarya. I don't think there's a one size fits all answer to this. It's essentially you try all the different resources out there. When I was looking back in 2017, LinkedIn was picking up, but it was nowhere near what it was today. So I still use the career services search engine, and the other resources out there, just Googling companies. And as Aishwarya said, sometimes you just need to go to individual companies' websites because they have their own, job websites that they advertise their vacancies on. So definitely was a mix of different resources for me.
Okay, so I think just adding on what they've said, to give specific examples, I think the University of Manchester is really great in holding conferences and seminars for companies to come in and try to recruit graduates. I'll definitely put those in my calendar, which I did during my time. Specific resources, yeah, there's still the Prospects, Grad Cracker. You could check LinkedIn, job ads, CV library. What also helps is also maintaining an Excel spreadsheet and just going through process mags like the iChemie monthly magazine. On the back of it, there are always adverts from companies. Check those companies. Oh yeah, this is a valve manufacturer. What else do they do? Do they have other branches? Where can I fit my skills and expertise within? You know, do that, create a list, and then start targeting people within the company specifically.
Yes, Miriam.
And there have been two questions which I'm going to combine. One is that they've asked, and how many companies did you apply to before you got your first graduate job, and how long did it take you to get your first graduate job after you finished as a student?
Okay, so specifically, I can tell you exactly how many jobs I applied to because I maintained an Excel spreadsheet which told me which ones I had made to the next stage or which ones I had failed out and the reasons why I wasn't making it through. My initial application was over 100, and that was before I figured out that the University of Manchester had a career service. Shortly after that, the application process became simpler in that the next 100, out of that, half of them, about 50, I made it through the psychometric test to face-to-face interview. So yeah, definitely in the hundreds for me.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much my case as well, a few hundred for sure. And how long did it take? I think I was doing that in my final year, so I got the job offer before graduation. That was a big relief, but it does take a while.
It's definitely never too early to start, you know, building on your experience and applying either to internships or part-time roles before you move on to graduate recruitment. But just so international students are aware, recruitment in the UK tends to start really early. So a lot of the graduate schemes will open up the summer before your final year, or if you're a master's student, the summer before you even come to university. And a lot of the graduate schemes will close by Christmas. So I know it's, you know, it takes some time to come back to university or be a new student doing your master's to adjust coming to a new country or to a new university. But you do need to take the time to look into these organizations and go through the list of organizations who sponsor Tier 2 students, handpick the ones that interest you, and make applications to them as early as possible. Doesn't mean if you don't do that that you've missed the train, you won't get a job, but you do increase your chances of managing to get a job in the UK if you do start applying early, just because you've got a variety and a larger number of employers you can apply to. Do we have any more questions?
There's one here which says, does the career area that you're applying for play a big role in the company determining whether you can be sponsored or not?
Yes, it does. Definitely does. So most times the companies you're applying for will already know exactly if you qualify to be sponsored or not. And I would also recommend that you make it clear early on that you require sponsorship, so you just don't waste your time attending interviews and then being told at the end that, oh yeah, you got the job, and then you say, how about sponsorship? And they're like, oh yeah, sorry, we can't sponsor because we don't have a sponsorship certificate or something like that. So yeah, the job roles actually do determine. It's checking on the UK shortage skilled list to see what the definitions are for what roles are available. Then make sure you target those specific roles to make the application process easier for yourselves. In my own personal experience, companies that I applied to were niche companies, really small companies that didn't really have a massive HR budget. So it was mainly me approaching them directly and then them being interested in my skill set and inviting me in for a chat. In I think 2 of the final applications that I did, I actually helped them out in figuring out what exactly the UK government requires to sponsor internationals. And the company I was with last time, I helped to spearhead the sponsorship campaign for internationals. That was at Cumberland Electrochemical. So yes, shortage skilled list, the roles are defined in there, specifically engineering positions, mechanical, process engineering, instrumentation and control, health and safety, and project management.
Yeah, if I could just add to Nasiru's point, I think just reiterate that list of the occupations. So each occupation on that list has a certain code against it, and there's a bit of science behind that as well. So I think you're free to switch codes while you're on a graduate scheme, but once you come off it, which I came off early last year, you're fixed on one code. And if you want to switch roles, you switch your occupation, you end up having to apply for another visa. So there are a few intricacies behind that you should definitely take some guidance from either the careers team, or once you join a company, they'll have their own team to help you with that. But that is definitely something to keep in mind as well.
Thank you. I've just sent to all the students a link to the Career Service website that gives you additional information about working in the UK. And if you have a look there, you can specifically look at the different visa options available. And if you go into the Tier 2 visa section, there is a link there for all the registered licensed sponsors. So I will recommend to all the students, do make a start by having a look at that list. So we've got a really good question from Jose from Ecuador, who is currently in Scotland. So Jose is asking he has always been told that when applying to jobs, he needs to show that he's an international student, and that makes him a better candidate. Did you, if at all, portray that in your applications? Did you show your global outlook in some way, and did you think that gave you a competitive edge compared to home students applying to the same jobs as you?
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. Yeah, so I think one of the earlier questions I answered, I said it is a lot more difficult, but I'd agree that you can always portray your strengths as well. So the fact that you are now in a completely different country, you adapted to a new country, you know, a new form of life, etc., etc. That the fact that you're willing to step out of your comfort zone is something that they definitely look at, and you can definitely portray as your strength. So while you do have to jump through so many more hoops because you are an international student, at the same time, you have a lot more skills that you can portray in your application and show how that company taking on an international student will also be taking on someone who's, you know, overcome all of these other hurdles. So definitely worth highlighting that in your application.
And if I'll also add, you know, you get to a stage in the interview where they ask you, are you open to relocation? And the first thing I'll say is, did you notice where my undergraduate degree was and where I actually spent most of my life? And I'm like, oh, no, I didn't. Well, that was in Nigeria, over 3,000 miles away. So I'm here in the UK, relocation is not an issue for me. And then you laugh over it and it gets you going. So yes, in some instances, it might be a hurdle, especially if they don't have a sponsorship scheme in place. But if you do project your value or your worth for them, it's possible to convince the employer to look at opening up sponsorship just for your specific case. For much larger companies, personally, in my experience, they don't really care where you're from. If you're able to do the job and you meet their requirements, they will take you on because they have a special legal and HR team to handle all the stress of putting through an application on your behalf. But yeah, it does help, and it does give a background on your level of resilience and commitment to developing yourself and furthering your career.
Perfect, thank you. And just to add on that question, you're all international students that, you know, got jobs in the UK. And when you got your very first job, or, you know, after graduation, when you went into your graduate career, did you have to build on your business etiquette? Were things that you didn't know that you had to, you know, learn, either, you know, cultural norms that you weren't aware of that you had to sort of like pick up as you went along, or, you know, simple things from, you know, I think because a lot of our students might not have any work experience. I know that when you get that very first job, you're always a bit worried, you know, what's the etiquette like? What do I do? How do I answer the phone? What do I say to an email? How do I sign off an email? All that sort of thing. Was it something that you would like to advise our students to do when they get their very first job?
Yes, definitely. It was a lot to take in at my first job. It was my first placement in the UK. Especially the job market back in Nigeria and the office etiquette is completely different from what it is here in the UK. In Nigeria, it's strict. There is the hierarchy. Yeah, you don't speak to your boss directly unless you're spoken to in some instance. but that's not always the case. So I started out at Cumberland, and my first week there, I did not interact with anybody. I was just focused on getting my job done. Oh yes, this PNID needs to be completed. I need to make sure the pumps I've selected can produce the right flow at the right head at the distribution point. Did I check the materials correctly? What's the roughness of the pipe? And I was just really getting into the job and get it right. And I forgot about the building interpersonal relationship part of the job. So yes, we're just having a quick chat. I was talking to the guy opposite me at my work desk with an open office plan, and he was like, "Yeah, you know the guys here don't really like you, right?" Like, what do you mean? I smile at everybody. Like, yeah, it takes more than smiling. They've noticed that the last 5 or 6 coffee rounds, you've not offered to make any coffee. Neither have you accepted anybody's offer to make you a drink, and it goes a long way, because what you don't know is when the time comes for your assessment or review to see if you made the cut within 3 to 6 months of your probation period, what they get is feedback from other team members to see how well you integrated within the team. So like what Niran and Aishwarya said earlier, job placements, early job opportunities that you do at the part-time will help further the opportunity for you to be retained when that job does come around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to add to that, I think that there were a few things that was new, I guess, in terms of how people interact and how the kind of relationship you have with your manager, things like that. I'm not sure if that's because it's a different culture in the UK or if work culture is different, but I think that just by observing and interacting with people more, you kind of pick those things up. I don't think it's something to worry about. I'm sure, people are really friendly, and if you ask for help, you usually get it.
Thank you. Do you got anything to add, Niran, or?
No, I'd agree with all of that, and I'd say I think the hardest bit you've already done in the fact that you've already come to the UK, and it would have been the exact same when you came here for university. It's a completely different environment, and you picked it up and you've gotten used to life here. So yeah, it's just now you're going from university life to professional life. So with that comes a few more changes that you've just got to learn on the job. So it's not just etiquette, even that's going to be technical aspects. There's going to be all kinds of stuff that you're going to learn on the job. So just be open to that, and don't expect to know everything as soon as you walk through that door, and just be ready to learn.
Definitely, I think it's really important to just point out to the students is you've come to a new country. Make sure you make the best of your time at university to meet either with UK students or other international students, and make the most out of it. Try to learn from their cultures, and exchange opinions, and never be afraid to talk about careers with each other and help each other when it comes to getting a job. I just wanted to ask the panel is how important was networking in transitioning perhaps from your very first job to your next job or to getting a promotion? Did you find that making new contacts helped you in any way at all? And how did you go about meeting new people and advancing your career?
Yeah, so I don't mind taking that. So I think networking, once you do get a job, is really important, but it's also important for that to come about naturally as well. So get to know people within your company, get to know other graduates, etc. And as you progress, for me, it helped quite a bit knowing different people. So not just about getting the next job and the next role, but even in your day-to-day job, the more people you know, the more you know who to go and ask what to. So I think networking definitely helps, even in your day-to-day job, and not just looking for that extra role. And I suggest that comes about naturally, and you get to know people. Don't force it too much. You're not on like a ticking time bomb. You've got time to, you're at the early stages of your career, so you've got time to familiarize yourself with the network in your company. So let it happen naturally, is what I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'd echo that, and I think that it's definitely very important to have a good network of people, but also it comes about naturally and organically. Currently, I guess the project I'm working on right now, I got it because the person who was in charge of it knew that I was interested in the area, And unless we had that conversation, I don't think I would have gotten the project. So I think it's always important to just make people aware about, what you're interested in, what kind of skills you have, and then some opportunities might come your way because of that.
And just to add on your points, yes, it is important. My last 2 job roles that I took up were through the network that I built on previous projects that I had worked on. It really helps if you try to do your best at work, and it will show, because you try, people notice your efforts, and then you build a network because they trust you, they know you're capable, and you really do like what you're doing. In that regard, yes, it works on the job to job, project to project part of things. Another thing that also helps to build a network is volunteering. So now I've been able to meet Niran, Aishwarya. I'm sure after the conference goes on, I will be adding them on LinkedIn. And that way, you have some sort of connection outside work with other people. It just helps to avoid you getting sandboxed. So in my previous job role, I was a project engineer for a water treatment company. That was at Cumberland, a very niche company. All they do is electrochlorination for offshore packages, where I was specialized in. And because of that, it would be very easy for you to just remain in that particular niche industry if you don't start looking at other opportunities and other avenues to further your career. And that will come with networking, because with the network you build, it gives you an insight, like I said earlier, into what's going on within the industry. And yeah, I think that's what I have to add.
Perfect, thank you. And I know Miriam is more of the expert on this, but just to say, you can always reach out to your alumni network if you need, help with getting started with your job search. So if you need any advice, or if you need someone to just tell you a bit about a specific sector, we do have the largest alumni community out of all UK universities, and no matter where you are, there are alumni that can help you. I just wanted to point out this link, this Global Networks page over here that lists all our international alumni contacts. So you'll see we've got people who specifically volunteer their time and are willing to hear both from students and from graduates, and tell you a bit more about how it is working in their country and how you can connect with them. And we're listing all our LinkedIn groups and Facebook groups that you can join and just stay in touch with the alumni network. So even if you do end up returning to your home country, there's always a network of people that you can tap into and you can reach out to if you need help. Do we have any more questions from the audience, Miriam?
We do. We've just had one submitted that says, did you have a clear 5-year career development plan in your final year?
Yes, I did. It always helps to have a career plan, because what won't look good is you make it through to an interview and they ask you, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And the best you can come up with is where you are, and they are the regional director for process operations. So yeah, a 5-year plan helps out. It gives you a clear view of exactly what you want to achieve, and then that helps you to build a roadmap of how to achieve what you set out at your target. Trying to be as professional as you are, as you can, trying to get your engineering chartership in whatever body it is. For mine, it was the IChemE. Those steps will help to make clearer what your future looks like.
And did that plan change at all? Like, did you refine it as you were going on through your career?
Yeah, definitely. Every step of my life, my 5-year plan changed almost every 6 months. So growing up watching action movies, I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and then I found out that I had a fear of heights. So that plan went away. I thought, oh yes, definitely, I like animals. I'm going to be a vet. That plan went away when I couldn't identify all the bones in the human body with their Latin names, So in the end, it turned out to be engineering was a skill that I had, and I didn't really have to work hard enough to achieve the grade or degree in engineering. So yeah, the plan changes from time to time, and what helps is you have a plan. So if the plan changes, it's not too bad, rather than having no plan and just going where the wind takes you.
Anyone else that would like to add anything?
Yeah, so I'd agree. Having a plan definitely helps, and being optimistic in that plan as well. So don't be completely outlandish, but at the same time, show that you're willing or you want to progress, and you're going to seek development opportunities, and it will change. So I went into the field thinking I want to be a designer, I wanted to design, and that's really what I liked at university. So that's where I got put for my internship, and it was fine, but it quite wasn't my cup of tea. And suddenly, you realize that, oh, this is probably not what I want to do and not the road I want to go down. And I soon started sampling a few different departments, and I realized that it's the service side that I prefer. I like to see our products out there with our customers, and dealing that customer side. It might be because of my background with my part-time job. I liked interacting with customers. So yeah, be open to that change, and it will change. So you just need to adapt your plan to that.
Aishwarya, did you have a plan?
Okay, so I was trying to think about that, and I think that I had a pretty vague plan. I didn't really know, for certain, okay, 2 years from now I want this position, that kind of thing. But I think it's useful to have a plan, but I think sometimes being too rigid can also make you lose out on opportunities. So I was talking to a few people who I think are pretty successful and senior in the organization, and I was pretty surprised to find that many of them didn't really have plans, but they would just say yes to the opportunities that came their way. So I think that, yeah, it can be really useful, but if you don't have a plan, that doesn't really mean that you're setting yourself up for failure.
That leads in nicely to another question. The next question I was going to ask, which is, what advice would you give to anyone who doesn't have a plan or doesn't yet know what they want to do?
So my advice to that would be to explore. So, try to get experience, whether it's part-time, internships or work shadowing someone, and try to figure out what you would like to do, or maybe at least eliminate the things that you know for a fact that you don't want. So that could be your first step towards creating a plan.
Yeah, I'd agree with what Aishwarya said. You need to try. The only way you'll know is by trying that out. And as I said, I was hell-bent on being a designer, and then soon realized it's not quite my cup of tea. So yeah, if you don't have that right now, then just go ahead and see what sounds good. Do a bit of research on the different roles available, different companies out there. And I think especially at this stage, you need to have that level of flexibility. We're in unprecedented time, but you need to, even if we weren't in unprecedented times, you need that level of flexibility, as Aishwarya said. So you've got to try out different roles.
Thank you. We've got a question from the audience about someone asking that he found someone who works at the company which he or she wants to apply for. Is it polite to have an online conversation with them on LinkedIn? And I think that also leads with a question I wanted to ask about why do you guys volunteer with the alumni office? Why have you come back to campus so many times to talk to students? I think our students normally find it a bit intimidating talking to people who are already working and asking questions. So I wanted to check, did you find it difficult, approaching people as well? And then do you have any advice to those students who might feel that, oh, I don't want to bother someone, I don't want to take up too much of their time?
Okay, so if I'd like to start, I think the first question was, is it okay to approach somebody, say, via LinkedIn? Yes, because one way to get an insight into the company that you have that dream about working for is either doing a background check on them through Glassdoor, for example, or approaching current and former employees to see what their time at the company was like. That gives you a rough idea of what it is before you go in and experience it for yourself. So that being said, a lot of people experience the same event in different ways, so you can't always take what you are giving as feedback from your questioning as actual fact. Is just an opinion from the other person's perspective. So yes, it does help to have some sort of conversation regarding what the company was like. So for me, in my own experience, when applying for jobs, especially for this really massive oil and gas company, what I did was go on LinkedIn, found out that there was somebody I attended the Society for petroleum engineers conference at Aberdeen that's how I met them. So I went back and I was like, oh yeah, hello, it's Nasiru again. We met at the oil and gas conference 2 years ago, just to make sure that they remember who I am. I was like, yeah, I remember you, even though he doesn't. Well, at least that's the icebreaker. Then I went forward to ask, yeah, this company, I saw an ad and I've applied for the position. I have an interview next week. Do you think I should go forward with the interview? And if you think I should, what advice can you give me to put me in good stead with the interviewer? We had a friendly chat. He told me what I needed to know about the company, and what he was strict about was, oh yeah, they are really massive on overtime without pay. So if that's something you'd like to do, then please go ahead and continue with the application. For me, it wasn't a problem because experience over profit is my motto. So yeah, I did that and it worked out in the end. So question 2, why volunteering, and do you find it intimidating when you're talking to people in higher positions? Recently, I was at another careers event hosted by Miriam at the University of Manchester. I met a couple of people I think I hold in high esteem, and one of them was a senior vice president at BP. He was just casual, no tie, long sleeve shirt with a jacket on, and we had a friendly chat on first name basis. Didn't know who he was until when I went back to try to add everybody I had a friendly conversation with on LinkedIn, and I found out who he was. By then, it was too late to be afraid because I've already had the chat, and I see that it's just another human wearing probably an M&S shirt and a blazer. So yeah, it's not something to feel intimidated about. Ultimately, we're all human, and we are where we are because we've done hard work and with a bit of luck on our side.
Thank you, Nasiru.
If I could just add to Nasiru's point. So the first one, in terms of adding people on LinkedIn, yes, definitely. That's what LinkedIn's there for. And they might not really be able to help you get a job, and they shouldn't really be doing that, but they can definitely give you those tips, as Nasiru said, just where's the company going, where do I get more information, things like that. They should be able to point you in the right direction, which then leads me on to my second point as to why do I volunteer. It's to break down some of those barriers. So when I was at university, the whole job application process was quite daunting, and almost seemed insurmountable, but it's to try and get that message across that it's challenging, it's competitive, but it's not impossible. And just a few tips like starting early, getting some experience at university, etc., can go a long way. And it's just to pass that on and to do that little bit of help wherever I can.
Yeah, and I think I agree with what both of them have said. For the first question, should you go out and message people on LinkedIn? For sure, absolutely. What's the worst that can happen? They can ignore your message, but I think people are usually pretty helpful, and it really helps to have something in common with them. So, you can see on LinkedIn that they've, maybe they've attended the University of Manchester. So that can be your conversation starter. I've used that in the past and it has worked. Yeah, I think why do this? When I was in uni, I attended an event like this, to meet the professionals. It was not online, and I found it very useful. It really made me realize that I don't need to be intimidated, and it was really inspirational and made me realize, yeah, I can get there too someday. So I'd like to pay it forward, which is why I'm here today.
It's all great practice, isn't it, for being plunged into working life after university? At some point very soon, a lot of the people listening now will be graduating, and they will be in your position and be in the working world and be somebody that another student might be intimidated to speak to or ask a question of. So if you can be brave and come along to these events and ask questions, it's all great practice for future life, I think. We've only got 9 minutes left, so I was going to ask the panel if for their one last takeaway or piece of advice that they could give to the students listening before we close. What do you think is the most important thing that they should take away from this webinar?
I think if I was going to say one thing, is applying for a job is a job in itself, and you have to take it very seriously. It takes very little to blow your chances. Well, that being said, if you prepare yourself properly, you've taken the first step already by coming here. to listen to those who've had similar experiences. You now know exactly where to go to get information you need to help make the whole application process easier.
Thank you.
So I go next. I'm going to struggle to go with one, so I might go with a couple. Start early is one I definitely say, and if it's too late for that, then be flexible, because I'm going back to this again, but we're in quite an unprecedented time, so be flexible about your options and look at who's recruiting right now, look at the industries that are going to need more workforce, and be flexible with your options.
And I'd say the biggest takeaway is probably to explore and figure out what you would like to do, get as much experience as you can while you're in university, and use the power of the networks that you have. Talk to people, and maybe they can help you out in the future, and you can help them as well.
Thank you. Kiri, as someone from the Careers Service, what would be your big piece of advice?
I'd say don't be afraid to just go after for the things that you want. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of practice, and no one gets it right the first time. And it's a learning curve. So just you need to have a bit of perseverance, and you need to be self-motivated, because it takes a lot out of you, especially if you do get handed a few rejections at first. But I do believe that everything happens for a reason. So I do think that people eventually, if they've got a good foundation and if they really try, they're gonna end up like a really good jobs. And your very first job might not be your dream job, but every job has something to teach you, and that will certainly lay the foundation for you to go on to do other great things afterwards. I think a lot of the students think that, compare themselves to each other, and they think that, my friend is doing better than me. They've already got a graduate scheme lined up, and they feel like, oh, I haven't really done anything. I say, don't compare yourself with each other. Everyone has their own journey, and it takes time. And maybe, at the end of the day, you'll get ahead of your other friends without you realizing it. Thank you. Did you have anything else to add, Miriam, about contacting alumni, perhaps, or about students engaging with you in any way?
I would say, yeah, if you want to carry on and engage with any other events that we might run like this, please do connect with me on LinkedIn, and keep in contact with Kiri and Nolene from the Careers Service. We work with them a lot with stuff like this, and they've got other resources that you find very useful. And I'd say use LinkedIn as much as you can. There's lots of university alumni on there that'd be willing to hear from you, and they're on there for a reason, aren't they? They're on there to network. They have the choice of whether or not they respond to your connection request. So use the resources available to you. Use the university, use events like this to make connections. And please do connect with me on LinkedIn, and then I always advertise the opportunities that we run on there. So yeah.
Similarly,
nice
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure all the speakers will agree that all the students are more than welcome to connect with either myself, Miriam, or the speakers on LinkedIn. I just wanted to let all the students know that I know we've had quite a lot of questions today, and we might not have gotten around to answering all of them. So we'd like to continue the conversation. So there's a large group called the University of Manchester Alumni Association on LinkedIn. All you have to do is just go on the search button and look for it. I'll send the link in the chat as well. So starting from now and for the next few hours, we'll ask the alumni speakers to keep an eye on this group. So if you've got any other questions, make sure you post them there, and we'll send a post to the entire audience of this group as well. So maybe they'll be able to chip in and give their opinions as well. So on behalf of Miriam and myself, I just really wanted to thank all the speakers and the alumni who've joined us today. I think we've gotten some really good insights, some valuable advice that hopefully our students will be able to apply in their job research, and I'm sure it's been very inspirational and very motivating for them to continue applying to jobs and continue striving to improve themselves during this very difficult time. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. In a few minutes. Oh, sorry. I was going to say,
sorry,
in
go
a few minutes, we will post in the University of Manchester Alumni Association group, and the conversation will continue underneath the post, and we will tag the 3 volunteers, including Awasha, who had problems with her connection, in that post, so that you know where to submit your questions to.
Yeah, so do send your joining requests. I just want to say that I know a lot of the questions that have also been very technical around, you know, sponsorship and visas. We do have another information session this Friday. I believe it's either at 1 o'clock or noon. It's an FAQ, a frequently asked questions from international students, and then myself will be on that webinar, and then my colleague Nolene Hammond-Jones. You may also recognize the names from the name from the career service. So if you do have any other questions specifically around careers, perhaps around visas, do come to this session. I'll post the link again in the chat. Oh, Nolene is just telling me it's at noon. So yeah, I'll post the registration link in the chat now. So do join that session as well and ask any questions you might have there too. So once again, thank you so much everyone for joining this session. Do take care of yourselves during these times, and hopefully we'll all stay in touch on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Nice to see you. Bye. Bye.